Sarah, where is Meghan Markle, and does anyone really care? That is the question that the Telegraph is asking in this latest piece, focusing on how Prince Harry seemingly is going solo in his last couple engagements because he has been away from his family for over a week now. He might have made a brief trip home. We don't know for sure. It would have been like only at the most, maybe 48 hours, probably less. But it seems that he's gone from a trip with his friends to New York, to London, to now South Africa and Lesotho. And the Telegraph is picking up on something here that is very, very key, which is that Harry and Meghan have a huge, massive, glaring problem, which is that they're not a power couple and nobody likes Meghan Markle. And so they've decided to shift their strategy and make Harry the prominent figure. But is this a good idea? Will this work? And I have even another question. Now, this whole where is Meghan thing is kind of dumb, but I just wonder if Meghan is having some of her proxies in the media try to push this narrative in order to compete with where is Kate? Maybe the whole massive internet panic over where was Catherine, the Princess of Wales, even though she told us she was recovering from surgery, somehow that piece of information was too complicated for most people. So it became a huge internet phenomenon, led to Meghan Markle, I think, launching American Riviera Orchard way, way, way too early. So is she trying to recreate that here? Again, so many things going on. We're going to explore this Telegraph piece because there's actually a lot of good little tidbits about the massive glaring problems, again, that Prince Harry and Meghan are having, which is that they're not all that likable. And Meghan is a huge, huge, huge part of that. So we are going to talk about this. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, I would absolutely love and adore to have you back. We also have a program that I consider more news, which is and offers a bit of commentary too, which is called The Crown Report. We did that earlier today on October 2nd. And so I will be pulling out little tidbits of that if you didn't catch the live and sharing them on this channel, usually in the morning. So if you see a story that catches your fancy and you're just not interested in the live stream, but maybe you're interested in a little bit of that, feel free to check it out. It is really, really exciting. We got some really interesting stories about the case of against the son of the crown princess in Norway. We also have a king who may become maybe a saint, or at least is in the beatification process. And obviously, Catherine returning as well. So if you guys are interested in that, again, feel free to click the link up above if you want to watch the whole thing. Or if you just want to watch some different varying clips of different stories, then just feel free to wait and we will get those out over the next week. And I also just wanted to shout out my Ana Lucia because I decided to put on, which I don't put on too often, which I do like though, is this lovely star necklace. So it has these dangling stars here. And this right here is diamonds. I know you maybe can't see, but it is. It is. So it's so pretty. So if you guys are interested in that, I will link this up above. I'm also wearing my Aya jewelry here, my emerald earrings, but that's not a part of Ana Lucia. But for at least the Ana Lucia stuff, if you use code ROYAL20, you shall save 20%. I also got my ring here that you might see as well. So if you're interested in any of that, I will try to link this necklace directly. And if not, feel free to check out their stuff and save 20%. You get lab created diamonds and jewelry for a fantastic price. And it's almost Christmas. So a great time to be thinking about, what do I want for Christmas? So guys, again, feel free to check out that link up above. And Royal 20, save 20%. That's all you have to do. So let's go ahead and get into this story because I was reading this article and I found it to be really, really fascinating because it's talked about things that I've talked about too, which is that Harry and Meghan are really at this point admitting defeat. They are admitting failure. They have failed as a couple in terms of their public image, public persona. They're failures. And so now they're having to go their separate ways. This is not necessarily something they want, but something they have to do because things aren't going well. Things are really not going well. And they're trying to separate their projects and everything. And Harry is trying to do what I would call the cosplay royal routine. Attempt to be royal when you have none of the trappings of royalty, none of the authority of royalty. You're literally just there to, I guess, spout word salad at people and attempt to look important when you're really not that important. Because Harry and Meghan, of course, without being working royals, they lack the power structure that comes with being royal. Royals only have power essentially as a reflection of the government they represent. Harry represents nothing but jam and dog biscuits at this point. He is really directionless, but he is attempting to reassert himself. And the problem is for Harry and Meghan is that yes, they're admitting defeat, but they're also sort of revealing a glaring issue that has been a problem with them since the beginning, which is that they started a narrative and are now having to flip that narrative. And those kind of things, that sort of public image that they've created over the years, now that they're having to switch it, that something like that just doesn't go well. And it raises so many questions for them. So let's get into this article because it is very interesting. And they have Meghan, she slowly disappears. Where's Meghan? Why is Harry going it alone? Royal observers say there is a new strategy to remind people of the prince they loved. So let's start off with that number one. That's so important, reminding them of the prince they loved. So what they're recognizing, Harry and Meghan, if this strategy is going where we think it is that Harry is much better without Meghan Markle, at least when it comes to the public image, because no one likes her. No one likes her. And because no one likes her, her being with him damages his reputation. He was at one point the most popular royal in the United Kingdom. He gets with her and his reputation tanks. It completely and utterly craters. And yes, he's a big factor in it, but she is key. Every catalyst for things going sort of sideways in his life in some ways can be drawn back to his wife. And some of that is things that I think she manipulated into happening. Some things are things that she didn't. But what is always going to be a challenge for their relationship is this recognition that really she is the catalyst for everything that's gone wrong. And he might come to resent her for it at some point. And that's something that she has set up for herself and him by playing all these games, getting out of the royal family, trying to make it in Hollywood. Well, Hollywood's not doing well. His family now despises him. He doesn't have any friendships in the UK. He's sort of floundering in Hollywood. He has no career. So he's literally going back to the thing that he said he hated. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work on a variety of levels. So let's just go and see what some of this is. It obviously talks about Harry and how good you could say he looked with the children at the Well Child Awards in London. I'm not really all that interested in that aspect of it. And then he had also done Jimmy Fallon and all these sorts of things. And it talks about how Meghan obviously wasn't there. And so he arrived in Lesotho on Tuesday for what became his eighth solo appearance in as many days. Particularly given the couple's joint trips to Nigeria and Colombia in recent months, the Duke's solo appearances have raised, perhaps inevitably, the question, where's Meghan? For a couple have always described themselves as salt and pepper because they always moved together and bought their Montecito house because two connected palm trees were reminiscent of their relationship. Their professional separation is new. While the Duchess focuses on her commercial venture, American Riviera Orchard, which is expected to launch next year, which is terrible because it should launch this year in coordination with Christmas, that you're missing the Christmas season. Massive mistake, by the way. On gardening and cooking, the Duke, it seems, is going it alone. So, what is really, really interesting here is something that I've always kind of harped on them as well, which is that when you overdo the PDA, which Harry and Meghan do, they have overdone the PDA the entirety of their relationship. As soon as you stop, as soon as you stop being so clingy to each other, because there was a point in time where he would not even spend like a day away from them. He would have to fly back. You know, you think of the coronation. He flew out a day and a half before, flew back the same day as the coronation. He was only in the UK like 48 hours or something ridiculous like that because, he had to get back to Meghan and the kids. And now he's going to be gone for maybe 2 weeks. It seems really, really odd. And again, this is only a year and a bit of change apart. So what does this all say? Well, when you make such a key aspect of who you are being attached to each other, as soon as you stop doing that, even if it's just professional, it makes it look like there's something wrong in your relationship. Why? Because you've made such a huge part of your relationship clinging to each other and being together 24/7. I mean, they have matching thrones in their office, for Pete's sakes. And we do have the salt and pepper and the connected palm trees and all these sorts of things. And these are things Harry and Meghan have told us, particularly Meghan has told us. And this was dumb. This was a dumb thing to do. They've made so many PR mistakes. And all of this basically whole paragraph here comes from her interview with The Cut, which was terrible for her. That thing has aged so incredibly badly for her. It is insane. So I can't pull up the article I attempted to, but the cut article, I think, is something that really, at the end of the day, is what killed Harry and Meghan. And especially Meghan, because she revealed too much. She overdoes it. Just like in the Us Weekly piece, where she overdid her explanation of her behavior and had her staff defend her and all these things. It was so much and so over the top. They shared too much information, and that's what she did here. And so when they portray this image of themselves as so incredibly close, so intertwined that they can't be removed from each other, and we see this reflected in their trips. When all of a sudden Harry's going to be gone for 2+ weeks, it becomes sort of a head scratching thing going, so what's going on now? What what does this mean for their relationship? Now, I don't want to say totally that means their relationship is over, but a professional separation is a absolute admission of failure. And I want to make sure to reemphasize that. So the question of the Duchess's whereabout is easy to answer in technical terms. She is at home with her 2 young kids while her husband travels. She is also working on plans for American Riviera Orchard, including a range of jams, which has been distributed to influential friends. Okay, if your number one product is jam, you're a fool. You are an absolute fool if your number one product is jam. That's crazy to me. Prince Harry has made it abundantly clear that his wife and his children will not travel back to Britain now because it's too dangerous in his mind. But there's a lot of delusion there too. And the couple have left their royal family. They've done, various things. But everything they've done together. And Harry often is dragged to Meghan Markle things just to literally sit there in the audience and do nothing. Like when she accepted in the Ms. Awards in New York, when the whole fake paparazzi thing happened, he was literally dragged there just to sit in the audience. And then she dragged him to Texas to literally sit in the audience while she talked. And so that they have to do those sorts of things without really having him have like really anything to do. It is incredibly strange that she's not with him. So this is from Mark Bronsky, a PR strategist. There has been a separation of their work for a while. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to think there's something going on. She's been doing the jam thing, the Martha Stewart play. He seems to be going back to basics. The star power they were expected to have together when they left Britain, he says, didn't work as hoped. They had to change the narrative. They need a venture that deflects from the failures. And I want to emphasize this. This, again, is an admission of failure. It is an admission of failure that they do not work well together in terms of their public image. They don't work well. And in particular, what I find really interesting is that potentially he is recognizing that she is a drain on him. And so he's thinking to himself, maybe, just maybe, I should redo things. And I should redo things to reflect what I want and what perhaps elevates me publicly. Because I've done what my wife has suggested, I've followed her directions, and it's not working. And she even recognizes that it's not working. And maybe I'm better off alone. Now, the danger there is, even if that's the case professionally, what Harry has a potential danger with is that he might think that personally too at some point, is that we're better off separated because together it's not good. But on my own, I can do my own thing. I can have my own public image that I can maintain. Like so many things go better for me when I'm not with you. And so I think, again, because they've had made such a part of their image being so tied together, that this separation becomes a narrative just because they are obviously having a huge radical change to what they're doing. And again, it's an admission of failure. And the reason we don't talk about this with Catherine and William, I've never really even talked about this with any other royals, and I don't think I would. Trying to think through the Rolodex of all the royals I know, and the big thing is that the only people who maybe kind of come close in a different way are Albert and Charlene. And that's because they don't do a lot together. Or she does something with him and doesn't really do anything else. They've had a lot of issues. You could say within their marriage, she was sort of the one who many said was a runaway bride. And then she had health issues in, I think it was like 2021 or something, and spent a lot of time in South Africa where she's from. And things seem to get strange there for a little bit. She seems to be doing much better. And so that was an obvious massive change and something you could tell like things were rough behind the scenes. We didn't know quite what was happening, but you could tell that something wasn't right. She had lost a lot of weight, like so many things. But when it comes to like Catherine and William, they do things together, they do things separate. And yes, it was notable the first time Catherine did a solo royal engagement. Why? Because it's notable. It's a solo royal engagement or first solo one after the child is born or something like that. But something people just note. It's like part of like the article, oh, first royal engagement since birth. But we don't really expect them to be together all the time because what Catherine and William have done, which is so incredibly good, is that they separate personal and professional. Harry and Meghan treat every royal engagement as if it is a date they are on. So when they are not doing it together, it looks like they're not dating anymore. Now, obviously, they're married, but it looks like they're not going on dates because they've treated it as a date rather than something that is professional. And so when you mix the professional and personal, once you have to start making that separation because oopsie doopsie, you kind of made a massive series of mistakes in how you've stepped out post royal life, it becomes a glaringly big issue. It becomes a massive, encompassing issue because you never separated personal and professional to begin with. And if they had done that, this would not be a story because Harry's always done his professional thing by himself. Meghan has always done her professional thing by herself. And then we occasionally see them privately. That's what was so interesting and lovely about Catherine and William's video announcing that she had finished chemotherapy treatments is I felt like we saw them be more on their personal time. We saw maybe more of what they're like when they are out of the eye of the camera. Whereas Harry and Meghan, I don't know the difference. In fact, I think Harry and Meghan, when it comes to them not being on camera, they're actually the opposite. They actually are less clingy to each other when they're on their own personal time than they are when they are professional time. Because again, they've mixed these things and being clingy has become part of their public image. And again, once you stop that, oh, well, you're changing up not only your public image, but how people see your relationship, which again is very, very damaging, I feel like. And so it goes on to say the charity aspect impresses upon everyone that he, Harry, does have value beyond the controversial stuff. It has the effect of separating them from the bad press and the failed content ideas. The punters still have time for Harry. And this is very, very interesting because Harry, I think, does thrive more on the charity things. And I think he is bad at content creation. So is Meghan Markle. They're both bad at it. And at the end of the day, it's probably not something he really wanted. He was probably pushed into, oh, we got to sign this deal because we need hundreds of millions of dollars because we are so special because we're the fifth in line to the throne. And people know who we are. I mean, people know who a lot of people are in Hollywood. There are millionaires and billionaires in Hollywood worth 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times more than Harry and Meghan. And because they are constitutionally irrelevant for the most part, their security risk is minimal, guys. But again, the fantasy and the delusions of Harry and Meghan require them to basically be escorted around probably one of the most safest cities in California, which is utterly insane. So looking at this, once they separate themselves, Harry also might see that, wait, my wife is the problem. This is an acknowledgement that Meghan Markle is the problem for Harry. And yes, he has done Spare. Yes, he has done Netflix. Yes, he has done Oprah. But at the end of the day, and obviously, of course, the court cases too, but at the end of the day, everybody sees those things as not only a reflection on him, but broader, a reflection on Meghan and how Meghan has influenced his life in varying ways, and oftentimes towards the negative. And this is not good for her because if he separates himself too much and he starts to take up the popularity ladder, while she might remain stagnant or go down because, again, she's the problem. People don't like Meghan Markle because she's fake. I think a lot of people see through the fake personality. And of course, she's also the pseudo intellectual. She thinks she's really intelligent and she's saying these really deep things, but she's really not. And so she is someone who, at least for Harry, in a lot of ways, And I don't want to say this because I think obviously marriage is sacred. It's something that they should fight to protect. But the problem is that for Harry, because so much of the negativity in his life is truly tied to meeting Meghan Markle and everything that has come since then. If he gets to the point where he's on his own so much and realizes things are getting better, then he might not want to be with her anymore. So even though this is not necessarily a step towards personal separation, in their minds when they begin this, it might go that way overall because Harry is like, wait, things are better when she's not here. I get more respect when she's not here. I get more attention when she's not here. Like so many things. Again, this could go so wrong for them. And I just don't think it's good in terms of what it means for their future. I really don't think. And yes, I understand why they're doing it and does make sense. But at the same time, too, I think we have a pretty good indication where this could all end up. So it says reports that Prince Harry is seeking a form of return to Britain have been emphatically denied by sources close to the Sussexes, but pointed out how happy he is with the amazing new friends and projects on the horizon. He has no interest in returning to royal duties, they say, which doesn't make any sense because they're talking about here the bad press and failed content ideas. Failed content ideas. Yeah, he has amazing new projects on the horizon. So what are the projects? Because the thing about Harry and Meghan is that they are paid to make content. They're not paid to make charity appearances. Yes, they probably do get a kickback for doing that. But the true money comes from creating content. They're trying to recreate the royal stuff, but they don't have the backing of the government, the funding of the sovereign grant, their Harry's father, and all these sorts of things. And so it's like, how are they going to pay for this? Because at some point the money's going to run out. If you guys can't create good content, which I think is a failure for both of you, that money is going to run out. And so you have to figure out what you're going to do because again, you can't really be a philanthropist if you don't really have the money to draw on. And they don't have the money to draw on. There is no money there. They don't have that much. And yes, they have obviously a decent chunk of change and he's getting an $8 million inheritance, but that's going to be gone really quickly in taxes, not to mention all the security they require for themselves, home maintenance, all that. That money's going to dry up really, really quickly. And Netflix is probably out the door. They've already lost probably over $10 million from Spotify. I wouldn't be surprised if the loss of that deal cost them potentially $15 million because the two of them are too incompetent to make a decent podcast, which is insane. Guys, I had that level of money. You would have so much content, your ears would be bleeding. There would be so much content. You have no ideas. So, nevertheless, royal commentators observed something of a return to royal style duties after a long period of controversy. So, Ingrid Stewart says Prince Harry has finally realized or been advised that dissing his own family did him no favors. The golden ticket for him is to remind us why we loved him for his Diana like ability with children, the disabled, and the disadvantaged. He might have finally appreciated he is far more powerful on his own without the distraction of Meghan, as Diana was without Charles. And again, this might start off professional, but personal, I don't think is too far behind. And that Meghan is letting him go, I think almost in some ways, because I feel like, again, that she has a lot of control issues. She likes control, that she's letting him go. Also, I think maybe reflects that she's starting to let go of things too. Or she's just so desperate for the money that she's willing to do anything at this point to make things happen. I don't think, though, he has this Diana-like ability quite as much as they think he does. Like, he has some of it, but the problem is when it comes to how they're structuring things now, Harry could do charity as a royal easily because he was being funded elsewhere. The problem is, I think now he is going to be funded to go to these varying charity events. So does he really want to go and do these charitable events, or is he doing them because he's being paid to? And that will turn people off. It'll turn people off. Unless ARO is $1 billion money printing machine, which I don't think it's going to be. He's at some point, like he's going to have to start asking for money for appearances. And I think he's already doing that a bit. Think he got paid for Jimmy Fallon. He probably got paid for some of the stuff he did at the Clinton Global Initiative, UN, all those sorts of things. He might have been paid for a lot of that. And so the question is he doing it because he really wants to, or is he doing it because he desperately needs a paycheck? And if you're desperate for a paycheck, you're more and more likely going to slip outside your comfort zone or do things you wouldn't normally do because, hey, our security bill costs us, let's say at the high estimate, $200,000 a month. So this thing is going to pay me $200,000 a month, like the African Park situation, where he still really hasn't talked about the alleged abuse happening against the Baka people. So he's going to continue with them, even though it's controversy, even though he looks like a hypocrite for sticking with them because he desperately needs that 200K. And again, that's a big problem. Phil Dampier says that he describes the prince's recent reputation as starting to lose ground, looking like a bolt on accessory to the Duchess rather than the prince he is. It's fairly obvious on these trips to Nigeria and Colombia, Meghan was the dominant partner, and Harry looked and possibly felt a bit like a spare part. And he will start resenting her for that. He will start resenting her for that if he's not already. And I think he is already resenting her. And again, this is the caustic dynamic they've set up. If he had just listened to some of the advice of what his family was telling him, his family was trying to tell him some of this stuff was going to happen, and he ignored them to his own detriment. So he does have to live with the consequences of that. But again, he was the prince. He was the person who was important. The more Meghan pushes herself to the forefront, the more resentful he will become. And so you have this situation where you almost feel like they're destined for failure because they've created a situation that's no win. She wants to be the star and the center of attention, and so does he. So they'll naturally start to compete with each other at some point, or resentment will build up. It'll all just explode in some form or another because I just don't think it can't. It's going to at some point. This looks like a definite attempt by him to strike out on his own and carve out a niche for himself that isn't Invictus. I think we're going to see him do more of this, him traveling and doing things on his own, restoring this kind of prestige. But again, the hard thing is, how does this pay? Right now, he is being paid to make content. He is not paid to do these charity events. Again, obviously, he might be being paid, but it's not going to bring home the bacon at the end of the day. He needs to have a real big boy job. Big boy job isn't really going to be in with Invictus unless he carves out and decides he's going to be CEO of it. And it's not really traveling around to do these sorts of things. This is not going to make him money. Celebrities do charity things generally without the paycheck in mind. He's going to have to start doing it with the paycheck in mind because the bank account is going to start to, again, I think it's already starting to run dry. And so how's this going to, the polo thing's going to bomb? I just don't really have a doubt. 5 episodes sounds like a slog. And so it's just, it's not going to go well. The opinion of critics is often at odds with those who meet Harry and Meghan. Obviously, the Well-Child executive says it's a magical experience for the winners to meet him. And Diana, chief executive, says he's a passionate advocate for mental health. Prince Sisu, the co-founder of Centipal, says, it fills me and the team and our wider community with joy to welcome Prince Harry, or Mohale, as we affectionately refer to him by his Sethotho royal name, which means warrior. But of course, they don't really get anybody to talk about Meghan. And their staff has said they are the best bosses I've ever had. I still think they kind of said that under duress, but that's just my opinion. And despite working apart, Meghan, Lily, and Archie have been ever present in the background. Harry chatted with them apparently when he was on the Diana Awards stage, but I feel like he kind of has to. And so it talks about this 2015 television interview where he said it would be great to have someone to share the pressure. But Meghan didn't want to share the pressure. She wanted to be the star. And so they've created a different kind of pressure for themselves, which I don't think is helpful for them either. They've created more pressure because they still have the glaring spotlight of the media. And they also have obviously damaged relationships with all their family members. And then at the same time, too, they also have to make money. They don't have the benefit now of being royals and essentially being able to do most of what they want without really having to think about it. Now, they're having to organize their own life and have the burden or the stress of trying to create money to fund their lifestyle the way they want. And Meghan definitely wants a billionaire's lifestyle, but they don't have the talent for it. So they can only do it really on a millionaire salary. And again, rubber meets road at some point. Joint life with the royal spotlight did not work out. But with the Duchess and support behind the scenes, perhaps those old royal style duties seem less of a strain. So they're saying that she couldn't do it publicly, but she supports him privately. I think that's BS, to be honest. I think she's basically like, well, if this gives us attention and gives us money, do it, Harry. Do it, do it, do it. Other than that, I don't think she really cares. So it brings up a speech he gave for Sentebale after Mexa. He says, "What I want to make clear is that we're not walking away, and we certainly aren't walking away from you. I will continue to be the same man who holds his country dear and dedicates his life to supporting the causes, charities, and military communities that are so important to me." Of course, since then, there has been an Oprah Winfrey interview, 6 Netflix episodes, a memoir, countless interviews, a security row, multiple court cases, and family estrangement. So, yeah, he did not really live up to what he said to Sentebale. He didn't really live up to it. And he didn't live up to the British people because he says he holds his country dear. No, he doesn't. A key central aspect of the country is his family, and he actively disrespects them all the time. So, no, he doesn't hold his country dear. He doesn't have any respect for it because obviously of how he treats it. So, again, really interesting thing. But obviously, as well, we got the interesting question of, is Meghan Markle trying to recreate hashtag where is Kate, but with hashtag where is Meghan? Because I think this could be true. Again, you look at this and I think to myself, where's Meghan? She's at home, you numbskulls. It's not that hard. Again, the question is obviously the separation they're doing within their professional and private and how they're splitting things as we discussed earlier. But still, it's just a ridiculous, ridiculous headline. But I bet you Meghan Markle is loving it because hashtag where is Kate broke her. I think my opinion has always been, and I know some people said it was the Diana Awards. It was not the Diana Awards. Diana Awards, I'm sorry, but they just don't gain that much press attention. They really don't. Meghan Markle was like incensed, I think, and panicking that Catherine disappearing, even when she gave an explanation for it. And it was just idiots on Twitter and TikTok and stuff that had started the hashtag where is Kate trend, that it was became such a big news story. Like major outlets were covering it. And I think it was stupid. I have multiple videos where I called the entire thing just an epic bunch of stupidity. But I think Meghan Markle lost her ever loving mind over it and was like, how can Catherine, who she definitely competes with in her mind, disappear and everyone goes crazy? And Meghan Markle leaves the scene for a little bit and no one cares. And so I think Meghan is hoping to recreate that. And I just think it'll fail. It's such a bad idea when you think about it. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it is very Meghan, isn't it? It's very, very Meghan to try to recreate that because the thing is, we know where Meghan is. And honestly, as well, nobody really cares that much. And Meghan forces herself into the media so often that there's not a chance or an opportunity you could say to miss her because nobody cares enough to miss her because she's in the headlines every day. And I want to clarify this because somebody mentioned it. Oh, people continue to talk about her all the time, even though hashtag she's missing. But the reason why people continue to talk about Meghan and why stories get regurgitated about her all the time is because she fed the media beast in the beginning, at least in my opinion, because she started the thing with feeding the media. When her relationship with Harry was announced, like then that night, she put up a picture of spooning bananas. And she said something sort of innocuous about it. But what she was doing was trying to tease people, make people believe that Harry was there with her in Toronto. And she was acknowledging the relationship, acknowledging the connection, and starting to feed the media beast. And she did this a bit more on Instagram. She posted a picture of her dog in a Union Jack sweater. She did another picture where somebody wondered if it's Harry. Like she did all these little things to try to churn up the media. And I also believe she leaked a lot of things because I will say I've never seen so much leaking in regards to royal press until Meghan came into the picture. Yes, there were stories, but I feel like the excessive level of stories was just something totally different. And again, I've watched royals for over 12 years very closely. And I like not even just the British, but royals all over Europe. I try to keep up with them quite a bit. And the amount and level of things we got about Meghan was just absolutely insane. It was insanity. And so I think she started that. But at some point, she was like, oh, this isn't working for me anymore. And much like Diana did when she would call the paparazzi to get the couple pictures she wanted, and then they stayed around, Meghan was like, she kind of stopped, but the media beast kept going because she fed it. And because nobody likes Meghan, negative stories about her sell. And this is a conundrum she has created. The negativity, the toxicity she started continues to go to this day. And I think Meghan is at fault for that. And yes, the media played a role too, but I think largely Harry and Meghan are at fault. I mean, you even go back to the letter Harry wrote on her behalf to the media, calling all of them essentially racist. That developed into the Sussex squad, which benefits them, but also created this massive level of toxicity within the royal watching community that did not exist before. Yes, people didn't like varying people, but people generally could have discussions. Now you see something negative about Meghan and they call you the most horrid names in the book, which is just entirely uncalled for. And Meghan and Harry, again, were part of that. They were a key part of that. Meghan is a key part of why her public reputation is so bad, why the media can't stop talking about her. And yes, it feeds her narcissism, but it's not good. She is overexposed in a bad way. They say there's no such thing as too much press. That is an antiquated notion. There is something to too much press, especially bad press. Her press is entirely bad. It is just bad. And because of that, I think there's just no salvaging things in many ways. She is really stuck in this place where things are constantly churning. So they are having to switch up tactics. The problem is that it then highlights, well, is something going wrong in your personal relationship? Because again, personal and professional to them, there was no line. And because of that, now when they separate professionally, it also looks like they're separating personally. And I don't know how they fix it. I don't know how they fix it. I've always said, and I think it's true, they need real jobs. They need to stop straddling or trying to straddle both worlds and pick a lane. You either go back to the UK and be actual working royals, or you actually be content creators, entertainers in Hollywood. If you can't do either of those, then you have a real problem. And I think they do have a real problem. I don't think they have a career path. I think they are both floundering. They desperately, desperately need American Riviera Orchard to be a huge, smashing success, but they've already made a massive misstep. She's going to miss Christmas. Like, I cannot fathom being in a like having that kind of thing and missing Christmas. Like, how do you miss Christmas? Like, how do you miss Christmas? It's the biggest holiday of the year. Massive crush to buy things, and she's going to miss it. And if buying things is a huge part of her brand, then what's it going to go forwards? And then you're looking at 9 months with nothing on American Riviera Orchard. 9 plus months if she gets to January without anything, because she launched it on March 14th, which again was the height of Where is Kate? And then the news of Catherine's cancer diagnosis came literally the week afterwards. So Meghan has created this absolute, I want to say it's a no-win scenario for herself. It's a no-win. Like, the show that she did, it was probably only 8 episodes. They're probably done editing it at this point. It's not gonna take them that long to edit her show, and they literally have to sit on it because the trademarks aren't going through. They're in trademark hell. What if some of the products that she's using, that she's intending on selling through her show, don't make it through the trademarks, and she has or patent process, and she has to change, like, the amount of things that Harry and Meghan have failed at is astronomical. And separating professionally might help them, might help Harry, but I really don't think it's going to help really float much longer the sinking brand that is Harry and Meghan. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think. Is Meghan trying to recreate hashtag Where is Kate? I'm like super curious because I had like that came to me all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, is she trying to do that? Like, really? That's such a bad idea because it was like literally stupid internet that caused that, not like an actual thing. So guys, anyways, so thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your support. Check out Anna Lucia, and I shall see you guys again very, very soon. Bye.